I've been getting a ton of questions about how to get my town to 100% supply in all three categories, so I figured I'd do a real quick video about that. Let's first talk about how supply actually works with the marketplace. So if you look at your stalls, if I have 100% coverage, that means every single plot in here is getting exactly what they need. And it looks like we have 31 plots. You can see it's hard to tell if you have multiple families living in each house, how many plots you actually have. But if you go through and count it, you can see we actually have 31 plots here. Now, there was a bug in the content creator patch where a family would reserve 2 supply, but a duplex plot would only raise the limit of the stall by 1, so you would always have families that would be starving. That's been fixed. So now, if you have duplexes, if you have burgage plot level 3s with 2 families in it, you can still get 100% supply. It's not a big deal. But the problem that happens is either you don't have enough to cover the supply that you need. So we already determined that we have 31 plots. That means we need to have at least 31 of each good to satisfy the needs. So all these burgage plots need 4 types of food, 2 types of clothing, and 1 type of fuel. So if we look over here at our marketplace, we have firewood and charcoal. The nice thing about having both of these is they will satisfy the market. Even if you're short on firewood, they'll move to charcoal. If they're short on charcoal, they'll move to firewood. So you actually get double the coverage if you do firewood and charcoal. Same thing with clothing. You can see there's level 1 clothing and there's level 2 clothing. So you have leather, linen, yarn for level 1, clothes, shoes, and cloaks for level 2. You only need 1 of each category to satisfy the need. If you go over that, you don't satisfy the need more, but you end up increasing the amount of approval you get. And you can see that here. It says market food variety, clothing market supply. If you go over the limit that what you need, then you actually make your people happier, but it doesn't help you reach 100%. Just keep that in mind. You need to have at least, in this case, we have 31 plots. We need to have at least 31 of each. You can't have 15 leather and 16 linen and have it reach the 31 limit. Each one has to be 31 each, because what ends up happening is this clothing stall will send out all of its clothing to the nearest plot. So if you have 3 types of clothing, it's going to send leather, linen, and yarn. Then it's going to go to the next closest plot. And it's going to send, again, leather, linen, and yarn. And we can see this. If we look at, we have only 16 linen, but we have 31 leather and yarn. So if we go out further, we can see exactly where the linen supply ends, right? So you can see these houses right here all have linen, but if we go outside of that, anything past that limit, there's 16 houses right here on this side. And if we go past that, these houses do not have linen, because again, they dump all of their supply in the closest house, and then they go to the next one. They do not satisfy the need to a minimum and then go to the next house. You have to have the maximum supply for the burgage plots to satisfy everybody. So in this case, we need to have at least 31 leather, or at least 31 linen, or at least 31 yarn. And then we look at the tier 2s. We have 31 shoes. We don't have any clothes or cloaks, but luckily the shoes are enough to cover the whole town. So we're good there. So again, you cannot do half supplies. Don't do 15 and 15 to get to 30. That doesn't work. You have to have 30 and 30 to cover both. Now let's also look at clothing. And once in a while you will see a bug. You see right now I'm stuck at 99%. This house right here in the corner, for whatever reason, is not getting supply of food. It's bugged. Sometimes you'll have a bug like that. The only way that I've seen to fix it is to delete the house and rebuild it, and it will refresh its supply. There's something going on there in the game. But anyways, let's talk about why you might not be getting and staying at 100%. So it really comes down to how your markets are set up. So hopefully that kind of makes sense about that. Let's talk about the practical application of how you actually get this to work in your game. The most optimal setting that I've found so far is to have your large warehouse and a large granary next to each other, and then have all of your market stalls right next to each other as well, right across the street. Do not put market stalls in several locations. Do not put them near the houses. Do not do that. Put them right next to your warehouse and your granary. Always have your granary and your storehouse right next to each other. Have them stocked with people so they can deliver goods to these stalls, and then have your marketplace directly across the street. The reason a lot of your houses are not getting packed, even if you have enough goods, like let's say if you have 1,000 of each food, but you still have trouble getting that food to the houses, the reason is because your people that are working at the stalls are not delivering them fast enough. The people in the houses are eating them. The stall worker needs to go to the storage to get more food and bring it back. If you don't have them working in a storehouse directly across the street, you have a situation like this. Let's say you have a worker out here in the woodcutter's lodge. Now imagine if he has to, every time somebody uses a firewood, he has to run all the way through this road, all the way to deliver the firewood, and then he has to go all the way back to his woodcutter's lodge to grab more supply. Same thing if you have, like right here, a hunting camp. It's a couple blocks away. If he has to run all the way back to grab food from here and then go resupply, it's too far. Always try and keep your stall workers directly across the street, and try and get all of your stall workers to work in the warehouses, both your storehouse and your granary. But more importantly, make sure they are very close. That brings up another interesting point. So let's say we only had 2 food types. Let's say we only had berries and eggs. They would consume half of that amount each month. So 15 berries and 15 eggs, even though you have to supply at least 30 to maintain that limit. In this case, we have 4 different food types for some houses, so they'll actually only consume a quarter of 30, so about 7.5 per month. You need to make sure that your stall workers are able to replace that 15 a month or 7.5 a month, or whatever the consumption rate is for food for that month. But just be aware, 30 food per month is consumed by a town that has 30 families living there. If you have a travel time where they're going halfway across the map to grab supplies, that's a problem, because you may have the food, but it's not in the stall to get them their food quick enough. Same thing with clothing. Well, clothing is different. Clothing, you only have to do it once per year. They use 1 clothing item per year. So you don't need as many clothing stalls, because the inventory in those don't get used up nearly as fast. And then fuel is the fastest. During March through November, the spring, summer, and autumn months, that your houses only use 1 firewood per month. December, January, and February, they will use 2 wood per month So that means during your winter months, you're more likely to run out of supply. Especially, it's even worse if you have your worker far enough away. Like I said, if he has to travel all that distance to resupply, and then your houses are using 62 instead of 31 per month during the winter months, that's why it's even worse. So always, always, always make sure, if you take nothing else away from this video, have your market stalls directly across the street from your warehouses, and make sure you have all of your warehouse workers running stalls. And try not to have too many stalls. If you have a lot of stalls, you're going to have a lot of inefficiency. What I generally do is I will start off when I have less than 10 or 15 houses. I will have a market stall of 3 locations. And then when I get to maybe 20, 25, I will delete that market and upgrade it to 6 locations or 6 stalls, or 6 or 7, whatever. If it's giving you trouble, you just do 7. And then when you get to this point where you have a lot of families, then you just make it big like this. And the reason I like to have this set up, and I have a double warehouse and double storehouse right next to each other, back to back. If I need to build another set of marketplaces, I have another one right here. They're directly across the street. I can fund another 80, 90 families here if I want. This is very scalable. You could also blow out the street right back here and extend your market stalls back here. Or like I said, you can just build it on the other side right here. The other reason I like to build my storehouses and large granaries right here is because now I can stock all of my industry buildings right next to it, and they'll be right next to the storehouse. So yarn, clay, all this stuff gets built directly near my storehouses, and then I have a really good central warehouse location to pull in all those goods. So anyways, I hope that helps. There's a few extra tips there, but that's how you get and maintain 100% on all of your stalls.